Good evening. We might get started. We have almost all of our speakers. Today we're presenting an important book on the Zaryadye Park. This is the venue of our event today. Quite interestingly, we are making the presentation in this hall named after the founder of Singapore. It's a pretty small hall, just like Singapore. And sometimes people think that it's similar to Gardens by the Bay Park in Singapore, but please forgive me, I believe Zaryadye is far cooler. Mr. Kuznetsov is the chief architect of Moscow. We have the first deputy head of the Committee for Architecture and Urban Planning of Moscow, and on my left-hand side we have Charles Renfro, an eminent American architect and a partner with dealer Scofidio plus Renfro, who is a member of the consortium, who was in charge of the planning. We also have Mary Margaret Jones, another well-known architect from America, as senior principal and president of Hargreaves Associates, which is also member of the above-mentioned consortium. We also have Pyotr Kudryavtsev. We've been working in close cooperation on this book, so we are good friends now. Pyotr Kudryavtsev is an architect and a managing partner of City Makers, one of the co-authors of the Zaryadye Park. And we have one more speaker who is missing, Andrei Batalov. We have a picture of him here on display, the deputy director of the Kremlin Museums, a PhD in history of arts, specializing in the Russian architecture, the author of multiple books, and he wrote a brilliant article on Zaryadye in the Middle Ages. My name is Anatoliy Belov. I'm the editor of the book, and now I'm a employee of the General Planning Institution of Russia. Before I give over the floor to Sergey Olegovich, who will quickly cover the competition held back in 2013, I would like to point out that we already had a session on the Zaryadye Park. You might be feeling deja vu. We'll try to make it quick, pretty succinct. It's been a long time since we started working on the book. It's not up to me to judge, but indeed this is an important historic document, this book. We've been carefully working on the fact-checking. It has 5 sections. The historic section on the development of Zaryadye over the last 7 centuries, starting from the 14th century till today. There is a photo gallery section dedicated to the Zaryadye Park, a section on the park creation with interviews by the main parties involved in the construction. Mr. Plotkin, the author of the Philharmonic Hall, which this is where we are today, the Dome, the information pavilion, which is a standalone object of great interest. So I would like to give the floor over to Sergey. Good afternoon, everyone. It's quite strange to mention the competition for one more time today. It has been covered. I believe people visiting the sessions have visited multiple sessions. I would like to quickly describe the book. Why this book? Actually, right after the park was opened, we started working on the book. So it took us more than a year. I believe this park is not typical for Russia, for our country. I believe this story is worth mentioning. That's why this book was conceived for the whole of this nation. I believe there are multiple references to the Moscow expertise from other cities, especially for those who work in Moscow, will work in Moscow in the future. It will be a good idea to have a serious document, not a promotional leaflet. Of course, no. It is a serious, a fundamental document, and we consider this book to be such a fundamental, serious document, including interviews, including opinions by the decision makers. And I do hope this is a serious book, but we really wanted to come up with something that will actually be our baseline. I always wondered about events we have very few historic coverage about. Jointly with the Museum of Architecture, we covered the project entitled The Street of Large Architecture. Unfortunately, we cannot say that was an easy job. We are lacking books, literature on the large scale milestone projects in Moscow. There is very few knowledge about their thinking. Something was actually implemented, other projects were not. It will be a great heritage for our descendants, for the future generations. I believe this will be a success. For those willing to acquire additional information on the park construction, probably we got something wrong. We got more things right. You can take the book and learn it for yourself. Thank you so much. Before I give over the floor to the consortium participants, to Charles, Mary, and everyone else, we have this picture here. This book is absolutely eco-friendly. We took this decision jointly with Sergey. The decision is this. This book should be made 100% of recycled paper. It was delivered from France. It took us 3 months to get this recycled paper, but I believe it was worth waiting. Now I would like Peter to provide some insights. Piotr initiated the creation of this Friends of Zaryadye group. Piotr, I would like you to be the first speaker, then please kindly hand over the floor to Charles and Mary Margaret. I definitely will. I will put it like this. We saw multiple events dedicated to Zaryadye. These were press conferences, talks, exhibitions, the park itself, meetings, awards assigned, and multiple publications across the media. Quite sincerely, I was brought up in the family of an architect, but I'm not 100% architect myself. It was put like that. The building is not 100% complete until there is a book covering the construction. And a residential estate is one thing, and such a construction is a completely different thing. I was brought up with a large amount of books on buildings, and these are my reference point. I'm not saying this is a reference point for Zaryadye. No. This is so complex. It has multiple scenarios for further development, and us as a consortium and me as a Muscovite, I will remain a member of the project till the end of my days. And having such a book means the following. This project is being reflected upon. At the first session, dedicated to Zaryadye, we mentioned the importance of wording. Once the park was launched, for the first 2 to 3 days, we kept messaging with Sergey regarding the multiple information sources, both positive news, negative news, and I can relate to this because I can tell what an architect feels about their brainchild built, implemented, and commented upon. Of course, it was not the first facility for other participants, but I believe it's crucial to have a good book to read on the completion of the project. We already congratulated Mr. Revzin on the positive criticism on the park. We would like to thank the Arc Daily Award. We thanked a number of journalists from The Economist, The Telegraph, and other media covering their construction. A special thanks from me goes to the team who made this book possible. Quite clearly, the time we spent on the book was not in vain. We all have a story to tell, and everyone uses their wording. There are 4 of us here in this panel. We have shared with you multiple versions, facts, but we might have some slight differences still. Having such a book, the first book, by such unique authors, specialists, architects, and brilliant journalists, with Anatoliy Belov as a head, it's a great opportunity. So I'm looking forward to reading the book when it becomes available. Thank you. Thank you for the good works, Charles and Mary Margaret. It's the first time you've seen the book. What can you tell right away after seeing the book for the first time?
The suspense was killing us, but I'm happy to say that it's gorgeous. And thank you very much to everyone who made this happen. The other thing that I can say, this is literally the first 3 minutes that we've had the book in front of us. But what I love about the approach to this book is what I also like about our approach to the park, which is it's layered. And it's layered with a history that we shouldn't forget, even if it's there are some rough patches of history. That history is very important, and it is the history of Moscow. And we need to always keep that in mind. And having said that, I would also like to say that this is a park that we're building for centuries. This is not a park for just now. This park will outlast any regimes. It will outlast any of us on stage, unless they finally figure out cryogenics while we're still alive. And so we're thinking about a long-term future and not simply just the here and now. And I think between the 3 of us standing here, I believe that we think we've made an armature, a park that's an armature that will allow for change over time, that will always be different, that will always be attracting different people as well as the repeat visitors, and that will always be able to be made in the vision of whoever is here at the park. That was our ambition. And I like that this book is a great tool to help make that vision come true.
Thank you.
I would just add, thank you so much for making this book, to all who worked so hard to make the project, and all of you who worked so hard to make this book. Thank you, thank you. We always wish there would be something like this at the conclusion of such a major effort, and there usually isn't. So it's great that it's about both the history and documenting how we got to where we are today. And I would just like to say I can't wait for the book that will happen in 10 years. So start thinking about it now, because I think that there will be more stories to tell in 10 years. And the way that, as Charles says, the way the park is being used will evolve. The landscape is already maturing in fantastic ways. thanks to all who are working on making that happen. And it's going to continue to change, and it's going to be something fun to watch, and I can't wait to be back. Thank you.
Thank you. What I want to say is that you definitely made history, and this is a great, not just a park. This is a great piece of art, of architecture, and I think it will. This park will last many years. Пожалуй, теперь пришло время.
Right now it's time for a Q&A. Unfortunately, Mr. Batalov has left the Ministry of Culture just now, 10 minutes ago. I believe he will not make it to the presentation until we just drop due to the heat and the high temperature. If Leonid makes it in time, we will hand over the floor to him one more time. Probably Vladimir would like to add something. Would you like to share some information on the river outlook, on the museum, on the Philharmonic, on the museum spaces? Actually, that's a brilliant day. It's been for the first time that the Philharmonic building has been made accessible to the wide public. We did a pretty good job. History-wise, what can I add? We also took part in the competition. Unfortunately, we ranked second. But our idea to provide an access to the river was taken into consideration, and we joined the project to work on the project further on. This project was also supported by a team of architects from the Marquis University. That was great. And as a bonus, we were commissioned to build the Philharmonic. That was great privilege and a challenge, because we had to integrate our building somehow in this beautiful park of Zaryadye, so that it becomes an integral part. This was a great collective job. I'm not going to drill down on the difficulties with the Philharmonic, but we pulled through, and I'm pretty sure we will run the Philharmonic in operation. I hope the sound will be just awesome. What else can I say? Don't have the right to invite you all to visit the concerts, but those of you who will have such a chance will definitely enjoy the process, and you will definitely enjoy the architecture, which is quite good also. Yes, I would like to point out the following. We made it in 20 minutes. We have an autograph session scheduled. The books are in transit at the moment. Probably Andrei Leonidovich is joining us. And while Andrei Leonidovich is in transit, I would like to take this opportunity to say a big word of thanks to Dimir Bashkayev for the interiors of the media center and the ice cave. I have Vladimir Ivanovich, Alexander Rafaelovich, and Galina Gardushina present here as well. She did this man's job to build the park. Thank you all for your contributions, for providing us with the materials. With this book includes a bunch of exclusive materials, drawings, and this book is unique. What makes this book so unique? The mere quantity of information made available to us. Please forgive me if I failed to mention so on. We have the books delivered now, so you might want to rush to this autograph session to get a book signed. We can distribute the books carefully.
Can I add something, please? I
Yes,
just
of
want
course.
to make one small correction, that Galina did not do a man's job. She did a job that only Galina could have done, which is to, and she, I think, is
Totally
very much
agree with
woman.
you.
That's all. Slight correction.
Da.